Greetings, friends. We all have books on our shelves that are worth quite a bit of money, but did you know that you probably have a book on your shelf that is worth well over $1,000? And if you don't have it on your shelf, you probably should, because it's just that great. Even though I just told you that the book is worth $1,000, what if I told you it would only cost you $35 to get this book? That's the difference between cost and value. And let me show you how you can get value out of this book and all the others on your shelf. The book I'm talking about is The Stars of Magic, which is now owned by Erudite. This book has been put out in a number of formats. I happen to have the hardcover here, and it is approximately 176 pages. This book has over 40 classic pieces of magic for you to learn. I'm talking about classics like Triumph, Coins Through the Table, they call it the kangaroo coins in this book, Cutting the Aces, Cups and Balls, Spellbound, Chink-a-Chink, which is a precursor to the Matrix, the Homing card, and that venerable classic, the Ambitious card, was introduced here in Stars of Magic. Of course, there are other classics like the Slow Motion 4 Aces, which we now know as an ace assembly. There's the Flight of the Paper Balls, which is basically paper balls over the head by Slidini. That classic comedy bit between the audience and the performer gets a lot of laughs and is a tremendous piece of entertaining magic. You get Ross Bertram's coin assembly, Max Malini teaches his card stab, and much, much more. Of course, there are smaller things like learning how to do color changes, learning lapping from the master of lapping Slidini, and so much more. Earlier I mentioned that this book is put out by Erudite, and he is quoted in the book as saying, "The Stars of Magic is the most influential book ever written about close-up magic. It influenced a generation of skilled close-up magicians and changed the face of close-up magic in the 20th century." All of that is 100% true. He further expands, "When I first purchased The Stars of Magic and began to learn the routines, I instantly felt that my magic had jumped to the next level. I was now performing professional caliber magic. Not the stuff that anyone can find in the library, but the real stuff." I mentioned earlier that the book retails for $35, so you can get it from a reputable dealer like Don's Magic and Books. How can it be worth $1,000, you might ask? What a lot of people don't know is that when these pamphlets first came out, and yes, they were released as individual pamphlets originally between 1945 and 1953. Anyway, when they were first released, the pamphlets went anywhere from $1 to $10, which meant that in 1953, the entire set that is now published in this book would have cost you $98. But obviously, magicians were willing to pay for these pamphlets because you were learning from some of the greatest masters of magic of all time. You had people like Slidini, Di Vernon, Ross Bertram, John Scarni, Leipzig, Dr. Daly, Max Malini, the list goes on. But the question is, why were they masters? And this is where the rubber meets the road for us as magicians. These guys were masters of their craft, not because of anything special, but because they worked on magic that fit their style. So when Slidini was teaching lapping, that wasn't something that you would expect to learn from Di Vernon. And when you were learning cups and balls in this book from Di Vernon, it wasn't something that you expected Malini to do. And that's where we come to the point where this book can add value to you. You're learning all of the original routines that have set off a myriad of copycats and versions. So for example, the original Triumph being published in here, it's still a great trick and is perfect as written in this book. Of course, we know that people have come up with a lot of different ways to do it now, adding gimmicks and props and other things, but this is the original, can be done anywhere, anytime, with a plain old deck of cards, and is still as amazing now as it was back in the 40s and 50s. What's your point, Jeff? The point is, you don't have to buy the latest version to learn some great magic. If you get a book like The Stars of Magic, you can learn tricks from this book, and it still is world-class magic today. In fact, it's like we talked about in the past, the secret sauce to any great magic is actually you and the work that you're willing to put into the act. So I see no problem with learning the originals like the original Triumph. Sure, there have been a ton of versions that have come up since then using gimmicks and other methods, but the original is a tried and true method that works just as well today as it did in the 40s and 50s. And like Di Vernon, it really doesn't have to do with the trick itself. Sure, you need to be putting great magic out there, but the secret is really for you to apply it to your style, technique, and storytelling ability. But the value isn't just having $1,000 worth of performance value. There's actually $1,000 worth of real value. Let me explain. Back in 1953, these lessons together cost $98. The US government tracks inflation through what they call the Consumer Price Index. There's a calculator online where you can go on and plug in an amount. So I took $98 from 1953 and brought those dollars up to 2021 to see if you had purchased them in 1953 for $98, how many dollars is that today? The answer is over $1,000, and you can get all of these 40 classic routines for only $35. And in fact, you could save 10% if you shop this week with Don's and apply the code STARS at checkout. So it's totally incredible the value that you can get out of this, not only in terms of the classic tricks that you'll learn, but also the fact that others paid over $1,000 to learn lessons from the same masters you can learn from today. You could totally put together an entire close-up act from the contents of this book, performing as described, and if you only charged a couple $100 for each show, you would very quickly also make $1,000 real dollars. Okay, so maybe I've sold you on the book, but let me tell you one more thing that's just super cool about this book. This book is an instant passport to credibility with other current masters of magic. In fact, my friend Paul DeLella shared with me something that someone in Connecticut shared with him, that you can use this book to double as an autograph book. Yes, that's right. I have collected dozens and dozens and dozens of signatures of famous magicians in my book. It's a really cool way to collect signatures and autographs of famous magicians that you happen to meet at conventions. I've been fortunate enough to have been doing this a while to collect some names of people who are no longer with us, like Paul Daniels, Barry Richardson, Simon Aronson, and Daryl, among others. Ozzie Wynn, Penn and Teller, Joshua J., Eric Jones, Mac King, Gregory Wilson, Juan Tamariz, Morgan and West, the list goes on. And my friend has even more names that I can no longer get because he met some magicians who have now passed. The bottom line is that it takes a set of magic tricks from a book that's already awesome and takes it to that next level of cool, because now you have another reason to get back into the book periodically, to review the names of the people that you've met and had some interaction with, and to remember that if you would like to join their ranks as a star of magic, everything you need to know is contained right here in the pages of this book. Or frankly, most of the books on your shelf. For me, the signatures and memories alone make my version of the Stars of Magic worth well over $1,000 to me personally. And the advice that I'm giving you about being able to go back and learn the classics from a book like this, then go out and apply that to your audiences, holds true no matter what book you're looking at on your shelf. If you want to find out how much I personally have spent on Magic Life to date, be sure to click and watch last week's video. But until next time, my erudite friends, keep reading.